All right. Today I'm trying to make a video comparing and contrasting INFPs and ISTJs, both of the introverts in Delta Quadra, and perhaps discuss their functions a little bit. Um, and one thing you'll notice is that INFPs are actually very passionate people, and you'll be able to see that when they speak to you and in their body language. Their face will be more emotive, oftentimes, and more importantly, their voice will be impassioned. They'll often be very interested in what they're saying to you and in the conversation that they're having with you. Their extroverted intuition will cause them to become engaged in the discussion or the rhetorical process with whoever they're talking to. um, and you'll see that expressed as genuine, like I said, interest or uh, even emotional attachment or passion in their mannerisms. ISTJs, well, FI in their third slot is a very powerful influence in their psyche. It doesn't often bubble up to the surface as much. And so while they may feel as though they might even be an FI dominant person, outwardly they're not very expressive at all. They can be almost robotic or rigid or staccato in their speech and their motions. They won't be as curious or exploratory in the kinds of things that they think about or talk about. They'll be much more focused on practical concerns rather than following their passions. Um, and so, I guess in summary for that part, I would say if you really are an INFP, other people probably can tell that you are one because there's definitely a distinct sort of energy that you'll get from them that you won't get from an ISTJ or an INTJ for that matter. Um, what else? It seems like INFPs with SI in the third slot and INTPs will kind of be the same way because they have similar placements with their perception functions. But INFPs they'll actually display more sensitivity to certain sensory stimuli that don't feel good to them. Whereas I feel like ISTJs with SI in the first slot, they're not quite so overly sensitive and they're much more able to process sensory stimuli in a way that is conducive to proper logical thinking. And so they won't have such an emotional response to sensory stimuli that are uncomfortable to them. Um, ISTJs inwardly can be highly sensitive people and also highly empathetic people, and sometimes it can actually bother them, I think, that they struggle to uh, socially interact with people successfully. Uh, I feel like INFPs with uh, their feeling functions placed as they are not super concerned with kind of appeasing other people socially. It's sort of something that they may even kind of defiantly fight against the extroverted feeling mentality and kind of refuse to conform to the sort of behavior that other people expect from them. Whereas I think ISTJs are more likely to desire to fit in with the community and the surrounding system, but struggle to do it. I think INFPs are actually more capable of interacting socially, although they may not express a desire to do so. Um, let's see here. Yeah, extroverted intuition placement is important here. INFPs, at least when they're healthy, should be kind of constantly seeking out new information and new experiences. You'll often see them doing a lot of research, possibly into more esoteric topics. Um, the extroverted thinking of both types will come in here regarding their tendency to be drawn towards scientific research and studies and such things. Um, I think ISTJs will find that they'll be much more likely to actually continue on through school and become scientists or engineers or something of the like, whereas INFPs might struggle a little more to take the academic path, and they may prefer to kind of follow their own path that isn't commonly taken. ISTJs will be much less likely to leave their comfort zone. They won't be as interested in seeking out new things just for its own sake, just out of curiosity. I think they will only start to do that in the event that they perceive that it would be beneficial to them for a specific goal. TE being more goal-oriented as it is. ISTJs, I think, will often be more likely to do things just because it's the more practical or reasonable thing to do, rather than it's because it's something that they really care about or something that they're super interested in. They may find it hard to be in touch with their FI in that regard. I noticed that ISTJs, especially when they're Enneagram Type 9, can often have like very little idea of who they are and seem sort of like an empty vessel that's just kind of waiting to be filled by information and advice from other sources. I noticed that with TE in the fourth slot, INFPs seem less consciously aware of the future consequences of their actions. I guess TE seems to lend an awareness of cause and effect, and so it seems to make it easier to project into the future what might happen as a result of something that you're doing now. So, like, for example, putting your drinking glass within arm's reach. A TE user might see you do that and say, you might knock that over if you're not careful. You should move it somewhere else, because they're foreseeing that me placing it there could potentially lead to me knocking the glass over. And so TE, I suppose, especially in combination with some measure of extroverted intuition, like in the case of ESTJs and ISTJs, will be much more likely to foresee the consequences of things, the cause and effect of things. ISTJs will grow exponentially better at doing that the more experiences they have and the more information they take in, because their ability to account for things and to predict things is pretty much wholly based on what they've experienced before. INFPs and ISTJs, both being introverts, will actually probably spend a lot of time in their heads, not paying way too much attention to what's going on around them. A big difference, though, I think, is that INFPs, leading with FI and NE, are going to be much more likely to kind of have an idea in their heads about how things are in the world around them, without actually taking the time to look directly at the world around them. And part of that is tied into their third slot SI, which kind of expects things to be the way that they were before. So they kind of think that they don't have to look at it again because, of course, it's going to be the same way that it was last time. And that also may be more emotionally satisfying to them. They may want to believe that things are the way that they think they are in their head. And so they actually might have a vested interest in kind of avoiding matching up the reality in their head with the reality of the world around them. I think ISTJs can kind of be a little similar in the fact that they may be in their heads and not necessarily looking directly at what's around them all the time. But the idea that they have in their head of what the world around them is like is way closer to how it actually is in reality. And it's something that they're constantly keeping tabs on, and they're constantly kind of updating their SI repository so that they have kind of a current and up-to-date model of what reality should be like. And so this is a place, I guess, where I should highlight the fact that introverted sensing gives you the very best kind of internalized approximation of how reality really is, that you can possibly get, I guess, from any other lead function. And with TE in the second slot, they'll also have a better idea of what they need to do to change the state of the reality around them in an effective manner. They'll understand that if I do this, then it'll cause this other thing to happen in another area or down the line. And so they'll have a much better understanding of how to make things go the way that they want them. I think INFPs have a better idea of how they want things to be, but their knowledge of the ways in which they could make that happen, or their ability to make it happen effectively, can be limited by comparison. ISTJs are way more likely to do things methodically, to want to organize their life in some way, to make lists and charts and, fill in calendars and planners and, try to systematize their life, essentially. They'll be much more likely to do one thing at a time, to stick to whatever it is that they're doing without changing their mind or considering what else they might be doing quite as often. INFPs, by contrast, just like INTPs, can frequently change their minds and be unsure about things. They may start to do one thing and then realize that it might be a better idea to do something else. They'll often look and behave in a much more scattered and disorganized manner. You'll see their body moving around more. You'll see their eyes darting around more. As you might often hear stereotypically, INFPs are usually more creative than ISTJs are in general, obviously due to their high up extroverted intuition. And additionally, I think introverted feeling gives your mind a great ability to fantasize about things that can be used to some productive or creative ends. I think if they are creative, INFPs tend more towards possibly creating visual art, like actually painting or drawing or something like that. They'll tend to actually make music. They tend to be very interested in music because of the emotional impact that it can have. They are way more likely to be writers. They're more likely to be interested in reading, fantasy and science fiction novels, and many INFPs are fantasy writers. I think many of the great fantasy writers, like Tolkien, are INFPs. I think ISTJs, if they express a creative nature, it's usually more of like a hands-on arts and crafts kind of thing. Like I saw a lady at the bus stop today who was like knitting little dinosaurs, basically, which seems like exactly the kind of creative hobby that an ISTJ might be interested in. ISTJs will naturally be more sure about what they know, and what they know will tend to be more accurate. They'll tend to have greater recall of things that they've read or things that they've seen. and they'll be able to give you more relevant and accurate details regarding whatever it is that they're explaining to you. An INFP, by comparison, will tend to be a little bit more fuzzy in their memory of things. Things will kind of be more loosely thrown together. They'll tend to doubt their knowledge often because, again, they're not quite so sure that whatever they're saying right now is accurate, because they're not really sure if they remember correctly. And, they'll tend to have less reliable information, but still tend to kind of arrive upon, a general truth of things that can be both accurate and have a lot of depth to it that may be missed by an ISTJ that's probably just looking at things on more of a, surface utility level. An INFP will also be more likely to actually give a lot of irrelevant details that may feel important to them, but don't actually assist in communicating their meaning to somebody else. I think a lot of the time it can be a little more difficult for an INFP to recognize that other people don't really feel the same way about things as they do. And so I think maybe it can be a little off-putting to them when certain things that they're saying aren't interesting to other people, because they really only have any relevance when their own feelings are taken into consideration. I think it's all kind of rolled into the fact that they have FE in the ignoring position, the fifth slot. They're often not very conscious of the impact they have on other people's feelings or how other people might be feeling about things, and it may not be very important to them all the time. All right, sorry if this video was a little bit rough. If you have any questions or need any further clarification, please don't hesitate to leave any comments on my video. I do still offer typing sessions if you're interested. Again, they're $40 if you let me record and upload the session so that other people can see it, or $50 if you want to keep it private. And I will put my email address or my phone number in the description, and feel free to email or text me if you're interested in a typing session or just talking about typology. Thank you.